Hey, Desert Church, man, what a privilege to get to be here with my good friend Jim McGee today. We are in this series, Jesus Was Right About Everything, including worry. This is the third of the triad of these series we've been doing in 2025. And so I'm really glad to be here with Jim today. Jim, I've gotten to know you. I knew you and your wife, Anna, what I would call Todd's 1.0, my first 14 years here. But we've really had a neat opportunity to connect a lot in this second iteration of my time here. And whether it be meeting over coffee and just kind of catching up, getting to know your story and how God's been at work. And so as we talked about this particular subject of anxiety and worry, man, it's just such an obvious connect the dot. This would be so good to hear from Jim. So I want you guys to get to know Jim a little bit. He's going to share his story. We'll conclude our time by getting even some ideas. What would Jim say related to some advice or encouragement if you're struggling with issues related to anxiety and worry today as well? So Jim, thanks so much for being willing to do this today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why don't you kind of take us back as far back as it makes sense, kind of tell us the storyline of just kind of what's gone on in your life and then how God has been redeeming that.
Sure. Yeah, I think the best part to start at is probably the bottom. And my bottom hit in 2021. And it was just an accumulation of anxiety and stress and everything else. I think, as we said, I work as a firefighter paramedic. I've been doing that for a long time now. And in 2020, as you can imagine, with everything happening with COVID and everything else, there was a lot of unknown. And I've always been a fairly anxious person. You know, I kind of tend to worry what everybody's thinking about me and that sort of thing. But when all of that was happening, I noticed a change in myself. I noticed there was some heightened level, and I figured it was probably normal because, you know, we'd never experienced anything like that before.
All the stressors, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just doing everything I can to keep my family safe, keep myself safe. So yeah, that year went on, and as you can imagine, along with everything else that you would see in that job typically, we saw a lot worse.
Sure.
A lot worse. And it was very consistent, and it was heavy. And for the most part, I've always seemed to handle it very well. I don't know if well is the way I'd put it, right?
Sure.
Looking back, when I think about it, like, why don't I feel anything about this?
Yeah.
You know?
You handled it.
Yeah.
Might have been more emotionally numb.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. And I just didn't recognize it, you know? So we go through the entire year, constant tragedy and hardship, and just being a part of other people's tragedy and hardship. And then going home and trying to keep my family safe, keep everybody sane, you know, and handling all that. And then for me, it kind of came to a head at the end of 2021. My older brother contracted COVID and passed away within a week. So I'd spoken to him, and a week later he was gone. And what do you do? You know, I've never had to experience loss or grief for myself before.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't know how to go through that. I couldn't feel it. I've been compartmentalizing everything for such a long time. Like, I didn't even cry. You know, I don't know. I'm watching my family members cry. I'm watching everybody break down, as you would imagine.
Sure.
And I'm just sitting there. I don't know. You know, I don't know how to express that emotion. I don't know how to feel it, how to identify what I'm feeling at that point. So I took a couple of days off of work because, as it is with this job, it's constant. I mean, we have to fill the seat. People need us when we go, or when they call 911, they need us to be there.
Yeah.
And so I just took my time off of work and went in and tried to focus on whatever I could and ways to handle it, you know, take care of myself in some ways and handle the estate, my brother's estate, and everything else. The stressors just seemed to pile on from there, right? The tragedy continued. The calls at work never got better. Yeah. And typically it comes in waves. It seemed for me that year, it was fairly constant for the entire year. So yeah, those calls kept coming, and I'm trying to deal with my own loss and grief and everything on the back end at work, no less. And finally, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I've never had any experience like this before. But I was driving to work one day and I took a turn a little too fast, and the body of my truck kind of rolled back and forth a little bit. And it immediately brought me to a flashback of a call that I had been on. So that call was a traffic collision where the people involved in this traffic collision were driving the same model truck that I drive. And they had been going extremely fast, flipped their truck, and without getting too into the details, it was extremely, extremely graphic. Probably one of the worst things I've ever had to be part of. And I walked away from that the day after, and I saw my coworkers crying and everything else, and it didn't affect me. Well, apparently it did, because after this, or as I was driving, I was there again. I was suddenly on the scene of that call again, and my heart was racing, and I couldn't, I don't know, I was just there. The next thing I knew, I was staring at the stop sign to turn left to go to my station for work. I don't know what happened on the rest of that call. Apparently I drove safely, so that's good. I made it all the way to the station, and I could feel something was very different. There was something very different. Like I could feel my scalp tingling. I couldn't catch my breath. And I'm doing everything that I can to just maintain normal. I'm trying to take care of what I need to take care of at work, trying to interact with my coworkers normally, and they are all noticing that something is off. That night, I went to bed and had the first nightmare about any specific, any work-related incident that I've ever had in the amount of time that I've done this. And that really set me off. I immediately started to resent the job, to resent everything else about, I'm broken, this place has broken me, this job has broken me, I'm no good for anybody. And to top it all off, a little mandatory overtime, forced me down the hill. So now I'm going to this other station, and I'm having a full-blown panic attack. I've never had one before. I don't know what it is at this point. And I go to the station, and I'm doing everything that I can to try and maintain normal. And I look at my phone, and I got another forced overtime. And it's so much that I just can't do it. You can't expose yourself to 182 hours straight of tragedy and then have 24 hours off and then do another 182-hour stretch and expect that you're going to be able to maintain normal. You just can't. So I got that message on my phone, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was tears rolling down my eyes, thinking that this is it. What have I done with my life? Why am I here? At that point, I reached out to my captain. I told him that how I was feeling and everything else, and he recommended that I go home and go out on stress leave. And the department helped me out, and I ended up in a treatment center. It's called First Responder Wellness. It's a treatment program for first responders only. So law enforcement, fire, nurses, dispatchers, military, and it's for everybody who's struggling. And of course, I think like most people who haven't been there, my initial thought was, great, I'm going to go and they're going to tell me I'm crazy. And, what good, they're going to try and put me on meds. And I do not want to do that. I don't want to do any of that. Like most people, you tell anybody and they're the same answer. Absolutely not. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But what we don't acknowledge is in this job, we tend to self-medicate a lot, whether that be through substance abuse or, spending money or whatever it is, dopamine release of some sort.
Yeah.
And that can be just as toxic and poisonous for us and our families as anything else, right? So I went into the program. It was a live-in program, and I stayed there for 90 days. And the idea behind it is it's shaped for first responders because we're different. I mean, it is different, right? There's a different way of being when I'm at work than I am when I'm at home. Definitely feel more polished when I'm home. Go figure. But they threw everything, the therapists, the counselors, everything. They basically throw everything they can at you. Every different type of therapy. It's group therapy. It's EMDR for trauma, for trauma reconciliation, it's equine therapy and art and and not everything is going to work.
Sure.
Right. That's what I learned, is not everything is going to work for me.
Yeah.
And what really did work for me is EMDR and personal therapies, CBT, and being able to just learn about myself. Right. What I found out is that I had been carrying things on my shoulders that I hadn't realized my entire life from childhood, right? Childhood had been, I think, like most other people, it could be confusing. You could feel lost. Sometimes you feel like you don't belong, especially when you don't have a solid foundation to walk on. And I took that into adulthood. So, I was used to walking into a room and immediately being, for lack of a better word, attacked, right, in one way or another. And I carried that with me everywhere I went. Every station I went to, every room I walked into, I was expecting somebody to come up, and it never happened, right?
Yeah.
But that just was building
Embedded.
in my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Come to find out, I'm carrying all these things, and so then I go through therapy, and I'm talking to these therapists, and I remember very specifically, I'm like, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why, like I told her everything I'd went through in childhood. And I said, I don't know why I feel why I'm going to be attacked every time I turn around. And I'm worried that I'm going to be victimized in some way, shape or form. And she looks at me and she says, well, you spent the last 10 minutes telling me why. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that makes sense.
You have connected a dot I did not see.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that is how the entire process went for me. I didn't realize what I had been through was what was affecting me in such a way. I minimized all of it. Wow, there's people who've been through so much worse.
Sure.
Much worse. And then it removes value from myself, which at the end of the day, how much did I value myself? And I could say it was probably less than I knew.
Yeah.
So throughout this whole treatment program, I think like most treatment programs, they want you to kind of lean into a spirituality. There are people there who were Christians, and I was Christian going in, right? I'd already had this foundation. I'd been baptized and everything in the past. And, but for me, this was really my time, like, okay, I'm going to lean into this. I'm really going to lean into this because I can't do it anymore. I can't keep the wheels straight on this car. And so I did. I started reading. I read one of my friends that I'd made there was a CHP officer, and he was a great Christian, and he gave me a reading plan. So I started in John, and I read through all of John, and I kept going, and I'm praying deeper than I've ever prayed before. And it wasn't an easy road. I'm still not out of it completely,
Sure.
right? Like nightmares still come. Like there are things that are just going to happen when you do this line of work, when you expose yourself to those things consistently. But I have a peace now knowing at the end of the day, like regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless of, all the crazy stuff that just seems to pile on top of everything that we deal with, right? I'm looking at tragedy up close and personal. Then I go home and the news is on and we're looking at tragedy on a worldwide scale, right? And then there's, the economy's going to tank and all these different things, and everybody's talking about it all the time. And if I sit back and I think about it, like I know that for the foundation of my life, Jesus is that foundation. He's the foundation I've built my house on, right? My children, my wife, everything else. And even if everything else is falling apart, when I look at my life, I can look and see like, well, he's taking care of me through all of it, Yeah. So if I zoom out from what's right in front of my face and what's constantly being blasted at me, and I just really look at it and I can see that Jesus is taking care of me through all of it, to the point of healing me from things that I didn't even know that I had on my heart.
Yeah.
Then I can get through the rest of this a lot easier, a lot easier. So.
Oh, that's awesome, Jim. I love that. Let me ask you a couple questions. Like one of the things I was processing in your vocation, like you said, man, so many daily, experiences with traumatic events, very rare for most people. But I was processing that when you were going through, especially that really difficult season of 20 and 2021, that then add to it this very sudden loss of your brother. I was thinking about our experiences are very different, but I was thinking about it can be, I think there's some who might be watching that would say, man, I get it why Jim would struggle with things of anxiety and worry because of how much he sees, just the pure weight of that. And I would say, period, like, yes. But then you have this significant familial loss as well during that time. And it sounds like in the timeline was really a push over the edge. It's like I was maintaining, like you'd say, I wasn't healthy necessarily. I was kind of emotionally numb, but that was part of that just whole like dust up of like, man, this isn't going to work. And I was thinking about, even in my own life, as a year ago, that someone really close to me lost a family member very suddenly. And I'd say going into that experience that I wouldn't think often about how horrible things could be on a dime. It just it didn't faze me. And I wasn't seeing it all the time. But it just wasn't in my narrative in my head. But after that happened, man, for the next probably 3 or 4 months, I'm very worried about my children. I'm very at a deep, over the line concern for my grandson. And I'm seeing the world through a new lens. You could make an argument maybe because I didn't think those things happened. You see them happen all the time. But I also wonder if some of the times when we talk about anxiety and worry, there are some people who don't know why it's such a big deal, who don't understand why it can be so paralyzing, why it can be just so debilitating. But I wonder if for some, they haven't experienced that close enough yet. And then I think it messes with you because you realize, oh, I'm not as safe as I thought I was, or in the people around me. And I'm just thinking as I'm listening, I'm going, man, that was a really powerful season for me. Number one, to have more empathy for people who do struggle with anxiety and worry, but also to realize, man, that's maybe almost in a sense of a season of trying to think of self-care or think of how I'm being shepherded by people around me. I need extra in those seasons of leaning into the Lord and being reminded of who he is and being reminded of his goodness and being reminded of the first 53 years of my life that have not had that intense, oh, this could happen. And I just wonder if that's a way, and I think you guys are really involved in regen and think of some of the ways we minister to one another. It kind of helped them go, yeah, your perspective, things that have happened are accurate, but maybe it feels overblown because of what you've experienced in this recent season. Does that make any sense at all to either your experience or the people that you're kind of walking with?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, and I'm kind of, I think anybody in my realm is probably a special case, right? We expose ourselves to a lot, but for most people, that's not life, right? Life is the daily routine.
Yeah.
And when you have something that upends that so much, it's hard not to focus on that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when there's so much pain that comes from that moment. And it's hard, grief is a process, and it might not be grief. It could be anything.
Yeah.
You could be, it could be grief for any reason. It doesn't have to be the loss of a person, whatever. But it's hard not to focus on that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Because I think for me specifically as a man, I would say as a man, I want to fix most things. I'm constantly thinking about, well, how do I fix this? How do I solve this problem?
Yeah.
How do I make everything okay again? And sometimes it's just not my place. Yeah. For me to be able to accept that was a difficult place to come to. And I think probably difficult for most people, right? To be able to let go completely. There's fear in that because you have to trust, right? Yeah. And if you've never been shown that you can trust somebody on that level, that's the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a hard time to start trusting God and the people he's put in my life when I haven't maybe ever really needed to or haven't chosen to before, then that's a rough time. But if there can be that incremental trust, maybe that's when those big moments come into our lives that we can go, okay, wait a second, this is going to disrupt. There's no doubt about it. But I've seen God be faithful. I've seen that I could trust him with other things till now. Maybe I can trust him with this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's
Absolutely.
good though, as you're sharing that. Well, think about this, Jim. When you think about people that are walking through areas in their life of like debilitating anxiety, or they're in a season of just of significant worry, what kinds of things would you, and I know everyone's situation is different, but generally speaking, what are some areas and ways that you've just seen God help you grow in your ability to trust him, or grow in your ability to not be overcome by anxiety and worry?
I mean, honestly, for me, the way, how do I respond to that question? It's there's just so much, right? There's just so
not
much.
One thing.
Right. It's not just one thing. And I guess in a way I'm constantly looking for like, okay, God, like, what do you want me to do in this situation? Right. How is this? And then he brings people into my life, right? Cool. Like I had no idea about regen. That was a thing, but for me, there's healing in helping others, right? And helping others to maybe go through, walk whatever they're going through and have somebody to relate to. You know, I didn't feel like I had that. And come to find out, it's a huge deal, right? It's a huge help. Yeah. So God has brought people into my life. More than that, he's brought, I think, perspective that I see every day that maybe I didn't have before. Yeah. Again, stepping out or zooming out from what's right in front of your face and just focusing on like, okay, in the history of all this, in the history of God's creation and everything, Jesus died for us. He paid that price for us. And I've been taken care of this entire time, right? I know this is hard. I know this is going to be hard and I'm going to feel it. But rather than maybe hide from those feelings like I would have before, I'm more apt, and I would tell people to do this, to allow themselves to go through those feelings. Yeah. Because you're not going to grow if you never experience it. And yeah, it hurts. Yeah. It hurts. But if you push through it and you grow and you rely on Jesus more, not only is your faith in him going to grow, your trust, but you are going to grow into what I believe is more of the person that he has designed you to be. And I'm seeing that in my own life every day. And so if I could offer advice to anybody, that's what it would be. That's good. Yeah. Don't take that shortcut. Don't compartmentalize. Don't try to deny that those emotions are real. With courage, walk into them, and then with that surrounding community, right? I love, as you were sharing, I was thinking about 2 Corinthians 1 has this great concept in it that says basically with the comfort we've received from God when we've gone through it, and it doesn't have to be the same issue, but with that same comfort, we can comfort others. Absolutely. And like you talked about, there's this real sense of purpose and a sense of contributing when God allows us to walk with people, especially through similar things that we've walked through, and our empathy is through the roof. You know, we're like, hey, you don't understand how much I understand about this. Right. And then we can walk with them. And man, what a cool thing to think where our wounds, we're wondering, I don't know if, I'm just hoping I make it through this. I have no idea how this is going to be helpful beyond that. But you being here today, and you doing this interview, that's another great example of going, hey, there's going to be people who are watching that have never met you before, people who might not be a part of Regen yet, that are hearing, oh, there is hope though. And there is even a way that God uses his word, he uses his people, he uses his spirit to help buoy us through those times, and even then be a blessing to others on the other side. So the view on the other side too, looking back, is now one where I can say like, okay, I understand now why. Yeah. I understand now why I had to go through those times again, because I didn't know what I had, the wounds that it had on my heart. I didn't know, right? And so looking back, I'm like, wow, not only have you provided for me every day, but you've provided intense healing for me that I didn't know that I needed. You know,
that's powerful.
It just shows me that like God obviously his design, right? Like, anyway,
he's got it. But yeah, you're right. Wasn't that powerful to go, he's brought me healing from things I didn't even know were wounds. And then with time and perspective, I can see a little bit of the track behind me, you know, what he did.
Absolutely.
Man, Jim, I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for the way that God continues to be working in and through you. Grateful for your wife, Anna, your kids. Grateful for you guys, just the way you guys are a part of and contribute to the good and the better of High Desert Church. Thank you for sitting down with me today. I know it's going to be huge encouragement. And if you're watching today and you're wondering, hey, what's a good next step? Jim's talked a lot about just a really great discipleship approach that we began last year called Regen. It'll start up this next month in August, or in August when we're going to be seeing this. And so I just want to encourage you, think about that as a good next step. Reach out to one of HCC's pastors to sit down. Let's start a journey towards the kind of healing that God wants to do in your life as well. So thanks for watching today.